Welcome to Champagne Chats, discussions from the green room where we talk all things about the events industry. I'm Kate Woolley, also known as DJ Wildflower, and it's fabulous to be joining you today. Next up is a very special guest, an industry leader in the world of theatre, screen and performance in Australia. Let's get started. So joining me today is a very special guest and has reached the top levels of the academic progression here in Australia. He holds a PhD in theatre storytelling devices and not one but two master's degree in theatre and screen studies. He is currently an associate professor in the acting department at WAAPA and an associate director at the WA Screen Academy. It really is an absolute honour to have him here today on the podcast. Thank you so much for joining me, Andrew Lewis-Smith.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
This is a fantastic opportunity to actually get to know you a little bit better because we've only met on one occasion previously.
That's right, yeah.
It was at a professional speaking circuit, course rather. When I met you, this was at a MC professional course, and I sat next to you and I got in that opportunity to talk to you and ask questions and found out you were an incredibly experienced individual. What brought you to that speaking course on that day?
Well, look, I've since retired from WAAPA and the WA Screen Academy because I'd had 20 fabulous years there, and I've moved into professional speaking and facilitation. So the company that was running that session that day was a company called Evolve, and they roll out a number of courses to various organisations, and I'm now one of their facilitators.
Fantastic.
And I'm also facilitating for a couple of other companies as well, which I love doing.
And how did you know Carmen? Was that just because she was hosting the course on the day?
Yeah, Carmen Braidwood, oh gosh, she's fantastic. She works in media and she's a wonderful coach. And we had connected. But we're also members of Professional Speakers Association, which is a community of professional speakers all around Australia.
Yeah.
And Carmen and I are on the WA chapter executive. And so we're moving into that area of doing keynote speeches for conventions, conferences, but also rolling out a number of workshops to help people in whatever area suits.
Fantastic. So I introduced you as sitting there currently, but this is now a former role. So you're now, so you've moved on from the academic space, you're now more in the professional space.
Yes.
Which is fantastic because you've just got such a wealth of knowledge, and having worked over 20 years at WAAPA, you must have tell me a little bit about what your role was or your progression of roles were.
Yeah, prior to coming to WAAPA, I was I worked as an actor and a director, both in theatre and in screen, and I trained at the Australian Film, Television and Radio School, and after that I directed a number of television series which you're probably aware of, including Play School, which everyone loves, Home and Away, Neighbours, Something in the Air, Bananas and Pyjamas, a lot of children's series including Ocean Star and Parallax.
Fantastic.
So I had done that, and I moved back to WA with a young family, and I got offered this incredible job. It was head of performance at WAAPA, but also setting up the new WA Screen Academy. So the WA Screen Academy did films with the WAAPA acting students, and we also did things like documentary as well. Yep. So, it was a very privileged position. I love my time there.
It sounds so interesting. It covers a lot of ground. Play School is something that, as a millennial, that stands out as something that holds a big place. What era of hosts were you managing Play School? So from my early era, it was John and Benita?
Yes.
Was that the era?
No, it was a bit later on. It was like early 2000s, late 90s. There were people like Andrew McFarlane, who was there, and a number of others. Yeah, it was.
There's certain periods, so you can sort of judge and age myself. I've aged myself by John and Benita, but but
Simon Burke was another one. That was there at the time.
Incredible.
Yeah,
and so as a layer of generations, so kids, nieces, nephews, all those sorts of things that have grown up with Play School. It's a show that's continued to innovate and
absolutely
inspire a lot of people. So
it was a real privilege to be.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that was the directing side. What were some of the roles that you were acting?
Oh, gosh.
I know this is a long list, so maybe just some of the top ones.
Yeah, no, I've worked for various different companies. I worked on a TV series called All Saints and Water Rats, and then Cloud Street, which was a wonderful 3-part miniseries adapted from the Tim Winton novel. In Perth, in the last few years, I've also done a couple of stage roles in a play called Blue Orange and another play called The Children, and I had a couple of good roles on that. So yeah, it's not, I sort of switch hats all the time between acting and directing and facilitating.
Between acting, directing, facilitating, and then doing quite a bit of study to maintain that level of professional experience.
Yeah,
having a couple of masters and a PhD.
Yes.
That must mean that your bandwidth of information is sort of at capacity at all times.
Yeah, although my supervisor said, Andrew, the only good PhD is a finished PhD. So it took me about 7 years and working nights and weekends as well as holding down a full-time job. So my partner was very relieved when I finally graduated.
Finally put that one
Yes,
away.
yeah.
It's a huge investment time-wise and energy-wise. What an incredible thing to have on your CV. So what was the final qualification or final area of study for that PhD?
Yeah, my PhD, the big thing about it was helping actors to become entrepreneurial and not waiting for the phone to ring, because those days are over. So I think the actors have to now think about creating their own work and developing their own products that they can put themselves in. So if you like a couple of a poster child for that would be Tim Minchin,
yes,
who has written and directed created series which he's starred in, but also that wonderful English actress Phoebe Waller-Bridge,
oh, yes,
who's been in her own series and now is an incredible writer, but also still an actor as well.
Absolutely. Those people that are able to take the initiative, go out on a limb, they're not getting the bookings that they want, but they're going out and doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. So even if you don't have the skills necessarily to write and create, getting with a team that can help support you to do that.
I think that's very sage advice for anyone in any field, really. It doesn't necessarily mean being an actor, because one of the hardest things in starting off my early career, so I went the conventional route, finished school, went to university, got a degree, and then you're at that point where you have a qualification but you don't have any experience. And so that first step is really difficult because someone wants experience, but you need experience to have experience.
That's it.
And so if you're a professionally trained actor, I can't imagine that you're going to want to be hired straight off the bat, but you have to
create a platform that you can get on, that people can see you, and then they start to refer you for work once people have seen you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then
like anything.
Anything.
Yeah.
And now you've taken this screen performance theatre experience and you've pivoted more recently into the professional speaking circuit.
Yeah.
So are you taking these lessons into the corporate space as a lesson that anyone can apply, or what is the angle that you're approaching?
My angle is using the skills I've learned from acting and performance and teaching that, and see how they apply in business. So everything about achieving peak performance, leadership, collaboration, having presence, gaining charisma and communicating with confidence, all those things that you could just think sit with acting and performance are all applicable to the corporate business sector.
Absolutely.
So I'm shifting that whole sensibility and developing a keynote that works to that.
I think it's a really interesting area, because one of the areas of study that I've found really interesting for myself and understanding how to develop a skill set that is new to me, which is interviewing and hosting, and this is all part of the experience. But underlying all of this is storytelling. And it's such a powerful tool, and I feel like it's still quite a new concept to me. But how would someone use storytelling in a professional sense? Because I think storytelling is like, well, you're in theatre, or you're an actor, but people are saying storytelling is much more applicable in business.
Yes, it is. And I think there's something very healing about storytelling. And that is when I think when you can share a story, a personal, authentic story of your own experience to someone else, it creates rapport and connection and can build a bridge. And often that storytelling, someone goes, oh, gosh, I didn't know that about you. So you know how we have the iceberg, which is what the person sees and how we look and our age and our demographic and our gender and what have you. But often underneath the water are our stories, what's happened to us, what our past has been like, traumatic events, or if you like, or all those things that we've been able to learn from. And then when you have a sharing, like Aboriginal people, they're brilliant. They call it yarning. And they've done it for centuries, thousands of years. And I think we need to get cognizant of that, what that does, that when you yarn, when you share, when you have storytelling, it builds empathy and rapport and connection. And I think all those are so applicable in the workplace.
Absolutely. And truly it feels that connection people are really striving for as we work in more siloed environments, particularly working from home and working remotely, and even just the digital era where it's less about the time coming together. It's about being effective, doing things by yourself. It feels like that's a necessary skill more than ever, but something that we're having to relearn. I'm certainly feeling that's something that is people are recognizing that we've been efficient with the time, and now we're realizing that we're actually missing this fundamental element that makes humanity what it should be.
Yeah, and I think at its best and most profound, it's quite spiritual, because it's a connection. So a lot of us, when we get trapped in our ego states, we are separate from, and it becomes very ambitious. But when we're sharing with someone and you build that connection, it can be quite cathartic. You know, that's why people go to church or have storytelling circles, or, you know, religions at their best can work really well because it's a sense of community.
As you just told me more recently, you are now working in a professional speaking circuit and also on the boards of a number of areas as well. So tell me a little bit about some of the professional speaking boards that you're working with at the moment.
Oh, so I'm with Professional Speaking Australia at the moment, and I'm on the executive of the WA chapter, and every month or 6 weeks we have incredible guest keynote speakers that come into us, and we learn from them, and it's a really supportive, incredible community. And if you ask for support, you can get it. There's just so many people willing to help and support you. But also myself, like Carmen, we both work as facilitators. So I'm working for 2 companies. One's called Evolve in WA, and they go into companies and do everything from sharing, helping people to learn about neurodiversity, de-escalating conflict and aggression, team building, leadership, all things like that. But also another company where I'm currently working with WestTrack employees, and that's all about the new legislation that's come out around the psychosocial safety of all employees. And psychosocial stands for psychology, the mental health, but also our social interactions.
Yep.
It's not social like in barbecue. Yeah. It's social. So it's kind of everything, and it's encompassing. And all companies have to be aware of this now, that mental health is part of work health and safety. So I'm doing a lot of training with different people to make them aware of psychosocial hazards in the workplace. And they can include anything from stress, PTSD, bullying, harassment, about what's appropriate and what's not appropriate now in the workplace. So it's really exciting times.
It's a really interesting area that's evolving, particularly when companies are implementing these, schemes or really, it's a legislated decision that has to be implemented into their business. But the ones that seem to do it really successfully, the ones that realise that it actually has significant value for their employees. They're not just doing it because they have to tick a box.
Yeah.
They're realising that by adding the value, the social wellness of their employees means happier people, less turnover. It's generally a nicer place to work.
Yeah, you've absolutely got it there. That retention.
Yes.
People staying in the same job, which is a big issue, but also respect and integrity, how you approach someone, but also like not waiting for Are You OK Day to check in with someone, to ask how are they, the way we greet each other, how you turned up, and being mindful of other people. A big word that's being bandied around now is mindsets, and there was a book that came out a couple of years ago called Mindsets, and it's basically about those people with a fixed mindset and those with a growth mindset. And fixed mindset is, it's been all of us to a certain degree when we're fearful of change. And, changing house, changing job can be very, very stressful. But another way to look at things is with a growth mindset, and the biggest attribute for that is curiosity. So if you're curious, you can learn about other things, and you're willing to learn. I mean, I think I told you earlier about my 94-year-old father.
Yes.
He's just recently got onto YouTube and can use the iPad, works his way around the iPad playing old jazz songs.
Sensational.
And so it's because he's curious and he's still learning on the computer, but learning new things from the information he finds. So it's, fixed mindset or growth mindset. And if you can turn up with a growth mindset, that can shift yourself, your perceptions, and who you're working with.
I'm just getting at that mental image of your dad sitting there and exploring the music. And there is such a link as well for personal development and sort of mental wellness with music.
Yeah, totally.
And going back and listening to those old jazz songs, which is also very nostalgic. You're learning a new skill, but you're sort of accessing those core memories, those long-term memories to do something new. It's it's a lovely way to link these two sort of growth skills and nurturing that inherent side of your needs as well. You've mentioned that having moved back to Perth, so tell me a little bit about the trajectory of did you grow up in Perth and then leave?
Yeah, I grew up in Perth and then I went to study acting in the UK and Scotland, interestingly enough.
Whereabouts in Scotland?
In Edinburgh.
Oh, brilliant.
Which was wonderful. And then came back to WA. My family's always been in WA, but then I went to Sydney for 20 years and then came back to direct a children's television series called Parallax. And then I got this incredible job at WAAPA. And that was wonderful for 20 years. So I really enjoyed that. But I'm also really enjoying this new chapter.
Yes.
But what was great about that time at WAAPA, I saw many, many alumni graduate and go on to do great things. And
being a part of that initial journey and seeing where they came.
Yeah. In fact, you're probably seeing their face plastered everywhere at the moment. One of our graduates from WAAPA was Sophia Forrest.
Oh, wow.
And she's currently in a show at Black Swan called Prima Facie.
Yes.
So it's wonderful seeing her, their face everywhere around at the moment on posters and in newspapers and what have you.
There's a billboard just down the road and I drive past it all the time and it looks fascinating.
Getting a lot of attention.
I've been to a couple of Black Swan theatre productions and the calibre is really incredible. Previously, most of the productions I've seen are in Sydney, from Sydney originally.
Sure.
So Sydney Theatre Company and the Waterloo, the Dank Street ones. There's a few other ones that I've gone along to and I feel like that's something that I don't necessarily always make the time for, but every time I do go, I really, really enjoy the experience. And I think sometimes people feel like a little bit of a barrier between like it's the theatre world and the arts world, but there does seem to be more productions that are more accessible for all types of people.
Yeah, indeed.
Do you think that's a deliberate decision or?
I think there's some careful planning. There's a new artistic director there and Kate Champion, and she's been very proactive in what she chooses, and I think the marketing's really good now. It's attracting lots of people in, so it's a good thing. This, like we were talking earlier about connecting with other people, live performance and thank God we're out of COVID now. Live performance has something very special that doesn't occur in the same way that screen does.
Yes, and so that's captured your imagination for a long time, having actually been an actor and then all of the directing. It would be remiss of me to not address the time you spent at WAAPA and some of the more famous names that you might have come across. Would you mind?
Sure. Well, I didn't train with Hugh Jackman, but I've met him a number of times, and he's just incredible. And one of the things about Hugh, which I think is really incredible, which I tell business people when I'm talking to them, he's an incredible listener, and he has an ability to make you feel like you're the most important person in the room. And I think that's a real skill of someone who's really actively listening. And I remember the stories, the two women who used to work at the box office, they said Hugh used to come up every day and lean on the counter and ask them about them.
Wow.
And I think that's really interesting.
That is, especially that's not what I would expect of someone. Well, I've always heard really lovely things about Hugh Jackman through the network.
Always great reports.
Lovely, but I feel like that really drills it down, where it's not just about telling people about himself.
Yeah,
He's asking about them. It's a really powerful thing, is asking questions about somebody else.
Someone else. And you don't think that of someone who's such a massive, A-list star. Other people I trained with Frances O'Connor, and she's doing incredible. She's in the production of The 12 that's coming on at the moment with Sam Neill. She's had an incredible career in the UK and written and directed a show about Emily Bronte that was a film out last year. Jai Courtney, of course, who's a MC on The Summit at the moment. He's had a pretty big career, but there's many of them now that are kicking around doing really well, and they let me know. My nickname is Alu from my time at WAAPA, and I get texts occasionally on Facebook, "Hey Alu, I'm doing this series or I'm doing that series." So it's really lovely to hear back from them.
That must be lovely to have that continued connection where they're reaching out. And
great.
Potentially this new generation of people that will be benefiting from your PhD about how to take your skill set and actually market yourself out there to get the work.
Yeah.
Because that initial connection is
don't sit still waiting for the phone to ring.
That's fantastic advice.
Get
going.
Yeah.
One of the things I wanted to ask you was, in relation to this podcast, it's all about people that I've met in the events industry. But really, when I talk about the events industry, it's sort of entertainment, it's media, it's performing arts. So it's not specific to events, but I feel like there's very much a
crossover.
It's very much a layered crossover. So from the corporate event side and the performing arts side, a lot of big performing arts spaces, in order for them to be profitable, are heavily subsidized by big business, Fortune 500 and mining companies. And on the flip side of that there seems to be a push away, particularly within fringe, those sorts of environments where they don't want to be sponsored by these names, but they still need to make, profitable business. Do you have much experience with sort of guiding people to sort of being independent, or are you sort of indifferent as to how the arts are?
I'm kind of not indifferent. However, I think it depends on each company. And I think you and your board need to discuss what you want to represent, what your brand is, and the integrity around that. But you can't ignore that we're also a state that's been, the economy's been built on big business and big mining, big machinery.
Yes.
So it needs, if the state is providing surplus for the government, it needs to flow down to the arts.
Yes.
So right across the board. So if you've got a community where there are artists and there's storytelling happening, you've got a healthy community.
Yes. As the industry leader that you have evolved and continue to now share your skill sets, and you have many qualifications, lots of different areas, what do you actively do to try and continue to stay on top of your industry?
Well, I constantly keep training and I keep reading. So the moment I'm doing a lot of facilitation. So in order to do the facilitation, I have to do a lot of research because it's everything, as I mentioned, the psychosocial, neurodiversity, de-escalation of conflict and aggression, everything that's in the currently is issues in the workplace. So I've got to become very cognizant of what best practices and then being able to relay that to the companies and people that I'm working with. But equally with the professional speaking, I'm now developing up a keynote. I'm getting some paid mentorship on that for me. And I've done a lot of speaking, a lot of acting, a lot of performing, but I know that I still need development on my keynote to craft it. So yeah, just keep reading, keep asking people and not being afraid to hear feedback.
Yes. It's a hard thing to put yourself out there for negative feedback, positive feedback, but that's all part of the growth.
Yeah, it is.
And even we talked before about your professional speaking organisation. You said that that's a very supportive environment because people are all going there to learn and receive feedback. But it's constructive. It's in order for them to learn and grow
absolutely.
and experience that. I love hearing that you yourself have mentors.
Yeah.
Because it just shows that there is just it's a continual growth path.
No doubt. Yeah, no. And I mentor some other people myself, a number of actors. It's like pro bono, if you like. But then I've sought out some mentors myself. Yeah. No, I think having a buddy system is so important. You're never too old for that.
No, I think that's really, really good advice. It's something that I definitely feel is really important for me to continue to grow and learn because there are so many different roles and facets that we all have. There's not just one thing. And you can learn an area or skill set from one particular person. And as I say, generally people are quite generous with if you're able to have that time. And if not, we find someone else.
Yep, you bet. You bet.
With the professional speaking circuit, there are always ways that you're going to be refining it and developing this. As a keynote, how are you trying to develop this speech? So is this something that you're using tools like a screen?
Yeah. I've already shifted it to a degree. It's a PowerPoint with photographs and music. So I think what's really important is that you start with the heart. The people, it's a true story, something about you that is really connected, and then using your skill sets to help people see how they can have some insights by what you're saying, and then building it up to where you've maybe conquered a fear or climbed a mountain metaphorically, and how that there's a message there for helping others. I think most of it's the whole positioning of a keynote is how can it provide service for your audience, and knowing what your audience want to get, or creating an issue or problem that they don't think that they know, and helping them to solve that.
Helping them to solve it, which is kind of, 101 marketing as well.
Isn't it?
Developing understanding what the problem is, and then here's the solution. But from some of the keynotes I've seen, some of the most extraordinary storytellers I've seen an astronaut speak, I've seen neurosurgeons, and you think, well, how's that going to relate to me? But it's not about the skill set.
No.
It's about the story and the journey.
Yeah. Authenticity, empathy, and some information.
And some pictures and video as well tends to make things a bit more engaging, because going into a room where someone's about to do a 1 hour talk, but they're not those really good ones.
That's right.
They can just fly by.
They go really fast when you're engaged.
Yes. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing the TED Talk that you come up on screen.
Absolutely.
As you practice and develop this keynote, I can imagine you very much standing on stage and delivering your keynote.
Thank you. My log line for the keynote is, I make people famous.
Oh,
so that's it.
That's
that's the grab.
Well, I already know that's the heading I'm going to use.
Yeah.
ALU makes people famous.
Yeah, there you go. That's it.
Do you feel that professional training is essential for success in the theatre and acting world? Or have you seen people that just sort of go out there and wing it? I
think that it's a really tricky one. The 3-year actor training at WAAPA and NIDA, it's like what's wonderful about it, you're not doing any other subjects. You're only doing all the subjects that pertain to acting, voice, movement, what have you. But you come out an incredibly skilled performer, and you're doing it all the time, every day, 40 hours a week, and you're mixing with a cohort, so you're learning collaboration. But it isn't the only path. Russell Crowe and Nicole Kidman didn't train in an acting school.
They didn't.
But they had the chutzpah and the thirst for knowledge and the ambition.
Yep. And
so that's really apparent. And I think you can learn on the job as long as you're getting work and you've got good mentors around you, good role models. But no, you don't need drama school, but I think it's a really, really great start.
It feels that way. I think that collaboration with other people.
And also, when you graduate, there's a showcase that gets you into introductions to all the industry and the agents and all that kind of stuff. So it's just a great time.
It does. And it feels like even now it's that network that you have collected over the years that you are the ones that just reach out to let you know something positive that's happened, and they just want to share that experience, or whether or not might be actively seeking information for you. That network just can't ever be underestimated. You can't put a monetary value on those, because you'll always go out of your way for those people that you know, and you've sort of built a rapport with over the years.
Yep.
And then you start off your graduate group of actors, and then 20 years down the line, I'm sure as you build experience, you can all kind of help and support each other. And as goes with any industry or qualification, where you start off in one group, and then your experience will allow you to provide opportunities for your mates that you all started off with.
Absolutely.
So it's just been so interesting talking to you today, and I really value your time. So thank you so much.
Absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much for joining me for a champagne chat.
Oh, thank you so much.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you. That brings us to the end of today's episode of Champagne Chats. If you enjoyed, please make sure to subscribe on YouTube or any of your favourite podcast platforms. And remember, may the only pain in your life be champagne. Cheers.